So, with this idea then of why did it stop, right? So, the logic then was that, although it's not used in these words, although this is the word that is used for it now, is through a depolicing effect, right? So, the reason why we should not do police reform, at least at the federal level, was because of depolicing effects, right? So when we think about what exactly is a depolicing thing, right? So there are a couple things that are linked to it. One, it assumes that there is some external pressure or force that is going to be applied to a police department or police officers employed by it, right? So there is something, right? We don't necessarily know what it is, but it is, some external pressure. Now, maybe this could be, something like media attention. This could be social media. It could be, something to that effect, right? And as a result of the social media, right, there is negative attention, right? So this isn't like positive, like, oh my God, police are great. This is more of a, oh my God, police are terrible kind of thing, right? So we have this, significant negative attention, right? So we'll say also that this is significant, right? This is more than your casual, cops are pigs. Like, this is more of like, the institution of policing is bad, and this particular police department is bad. So it's also something that is specific to a department. So, but the federal police reform level, then, they're under this program that Section 14141. I think that's right. It is a targeted federal police reform effort to correct patterns or practices of police misconduct. And again, that's something we'll discuss later. That's just the language that I'm using right now. So there's this targeted negative external press, right, that is specific to a department. And when it's negative, right, we're talking about issues that of police misbehavior. And when you are targeted to it, right, it is believed that officers, are going to feel a bit demoralized, right? That people believe that they are, maybe bad, or that they do a poor job, that they, hurt other people, right? So, this is seen as like, maybe there's this like identity transformation where, they go from heroes to zeros, right? And again, I'm just describing the theorized process here. I'm not saying this is actually true or what's happening, but this is the argument made by depolicing people. So just keep that in mind. I'm not making a value or critical judgment on police officers or police departments writ large. I'm simply describing the process. So just bear that in mind. So these people going to heroes to zeros, right? If they're specific to a department, then officers are becoming demoralized, right? So the key part here is that we have this officer demoralization that is the subject of it. So if we think about, if we thought about this as a process then, so we wrote like a little flow chart, which is what we're going to do now. So we have this here, and this is negative external scrutiny. You can't really read that, and I'm sorry, but know that it's negative internal scrutiny, right? So this leads to officer demoralization, right? So officers are feeling down and depressed in some ways, right? So what is the consequence of this then, right? Because it's one thing, right, if officers feel demoralized, right? But what does this actually mean, right? So if we have this negative external scrutiny about police officers, and there's believed to be this demoralization effect on police officers, What does that contribute? Is this something that we should be concerned about? Why is that the case? So the argument from the Trump administration that led to this justification then is a couple things, right? So we'll cover one that's from the Trump administration that was said, and then we'll cover some other arguments that are there in first place that came out, right? So one argument that was made is that crime rates or crime would go up. The other part that is argued by some other people, depending on, again, who you are, where you are, and stuff like that, is that this could also lead to more officer injury and death because of officer demoralization, right? So this is sort of, or, you could also have it where you have both, right? So it's not necessarily mutually exclusive here, right? But one or more of these, outcomes could be present, right? And lead to a problem that, leads to this, right? All because officers are demoralized. So what's happening in this process then? So in this missing gap, what is going on here? So the belief then underneath this process and this, kind of thinking is, so belief one, right, is that with this negative external pressure or scrutiny and officers are demoralized, right, because there is existing pressure and existing scrutiny, you're sort of under the microscope of both the federal government, also the media, if word spreads about, if you have a bad police department, things like that. Hold on while I sip my coffee. So it's existing pressure and these ideas of, fear of some sort of retribution. This is believed to make police disengage. So they disengage, and as a result of this disengagement, right, they are believed to use less proactive policies, less proactive police action. So that could be, a stop or a search of someone, or, instead of, pulling over people, right, there is basically a second guessing effect, right, where we are assuming that police are going to be less proactive, actors, and because of this, because they're being less proactive, they're not stopping people, if they see suspicious activity, maybe they're less likely to intervene. Because of that, because police aren't doing it, and because we, as we discussed in the last week, officers tend to be more proactive with their police responses and forces, crime is believed to go up, right? Because police officers are just being reactive to calls and they're not otherwise engaging when they otherwise would, right? So as a result of this then, crime is believed to go up, right? Underneath this process. Again, I'm not making a value judgment about if this is true or not. This is simply what some people believe, right? And that's all it is right now. So this is the underlying process that some people believe is going on. The other part is if we're talking about officer injury and death, then is that if we have less proactive officers, then this means that there are less checks or searches if they are encountering with someone. And there's also a hesitancy for pulling a weapon or using force. We'll just say for use of force writ large, right? Because they don't want to make a mistake. They don't necessarily want to, come under fire for, a misbehavior or something like that. They don't want to make a headline or something like that. So it's like a second guessing effect. And with the second guessing effect, right, because officers are less inclined to use, their powers of using force to control a situation, arrest someone, search someone, or something like that, kind of believe then that citizens are emboldened. And because police officers are more hesitant to use force, right, they can lose control of a situation. And as a result of that, because they, have a weapon drawn on them or someone attacks them or something like that, or maybe they were too late in recognizing something, this leads to the potential for officer injury, more officer injury or death than would have otherwise happened. So that's the main idea. It's kind of the process here. So we'll go ahead and pause in this video here and pick up our discussion